Welcome to Fake Love and Flying Monkeys, the podcast where fake love is exposed. I'm Nova Gibson and I am your host. I'm the principal counselor at Brighter Outlook Narcissistic Abuse Counseling.com.au. This space is dedicated to helping you reclaim your worth and understand the impact of toxic relationships with suspected narcissists. You deserve clarity, healing, and freedom from the pain of fake love and flying monkeys. So please leave a review and grab a copy of my book, Fake Love, Understanding and Healing from Narcissistic Abuse. Let's uncover the truth and take back your power. Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Fake Love and Flying Monkeys. No contact or grey rock with the narcissist in your life. Which strategy is best for you? Now, this is such an important conversation to have. If you have a narcissist in your life that you believe you cannot go 100% no contact with. In other words, you just can't move on with your life, forget they ever existed, and heal without that trigger of having to see them at some time or hear their voice. So to begin with, let's look at what no contact is. So no contact is exactly that. It means absolutely no contact with the narcissist, with your abuser. If you can imagine putting a brick wall between you and the narcissist where you neither care nor have any idea about what is going on the other side of the brick wall where they reside. Of course, the no caring part isn't going to happen immediately because of the damage the narcissist has inflicted upon you, the trauma you've experienced, the powerful trauma bond with your abuser, and just having to process what they've done to you and work through all of those feelings of grief, which encompasses sadness, anger, and so much more. The no caring part about what your abuser is doing on the other side of that brick wall will come eventually. But for now, you have to think in terms of no contact. And no contact means absolutely no communication with your abuser, but not just communication in terms of picking up the phone, seeing them at places that you know they're going to be or you think they might be. No contact means not looking at what they're doing on social media. No contact means not looking at what the new target is doing on social media, because when you are doing those things, your abuser is inside your head, and that contact. So this can be really confusing for victims who think they're doing the right thing. They're not picking up the phone. They've got them blocked on their phone even. They're not seeing their abuser, the narcissist, out and about. In fact, they're avoiding those places. But what they're doing is they're looking at their abuser's social media, etc. They're asking people what their abuser is doing, or they're listening to what their friends and loved ones are telling them is going on in their abuser's life. And what happens? The narcissist is back inside their head. And when you think about that very powerful trauma bond, this is like a drug addict, the heroin addict, putting the needle back in their arm. You may as well pick up the phone and call your abuser, because when you are doing those things, such as looking at what the new target is doing, you are putting them back inside the very place that you're trying to get rid of them. You want to get them out of your head. They're taking up space. They're inside your head and they're in there rent free and you want to evict them. And every time you ask somebody what they're doing in the context of narcissistic abuse recovery, that is contact. So let's look at the type of relationship with a narcissist, which is always toxic and abusive. But let's look at those situations, those toxic relationships where you can actually go, and you should definitely go, complete and utter no contact. Well, if you do not share children with the narcissist, you do not work with the narcissist, you have absolutely no family in common, you don't have to see them at a wedding or anything like that that you feel obliged to go to where they might be, those are the times where you should be able to go complete no contact. No contact meaning you are being proactive in blocking off any access the narcissist has to you and to your mind, to your body, because this person is your abuser and you are kicking them out of your head, of that space that you want to refurbish in terms of healing and getting stronger and forming rock solid boundaries, which is not going to happen when the narcissist has a foot in the door. So when I hear people telling me that, yes, they are doing everything in their power to go no contact and they've done their research and they're really trying to get their abuser out of their head and to heal, but they tell me that they haven't got them blocked. They say things like, they haven't contacted me in months. I don't think they will. And they look so happy with the next soulmate or the 10th soulmate for the year. But what I ask them when I hear statements like that is, why on earth do you not have them blocked? And I certainly don't say this with judgment because I know. I ask them this because I want them to reflect, because if you are absolutely 100% trying to go no contact and you are hoping that you will never see this person in your life again because of what they have done to you, then why would you leave that as an option for them? When we talk about it further in our counseling sessions, I tend to find that people or victims and survivors who don't block their abuser are really on a subconscious level hoping that at some stage their abuser will contact them, even if it's because they think that they will feel empowered because they can handle it this time, and that person will call them and it will just mean absolutely nothing to them. They've gotten over them, or it's that they want that feeling of empowerment, or they're hoping for that feeling when they tell the abuser where to go and they tell them that final thing they wanted to tell them they didn't get a chance to before because the narcissist just discarded them like yesterday's garbage. They think that on a subconscious level that those feelings of empowerment will actually be true and benefit them, when in actual fact that very short burst of empowerment that you feel in telling the narcissist what you think of them and where to go doesn't last long. It is very fleeting because the narcissist is back inside your head again. If you think about the very powerful trauma bond, or that very normal, given the context of the abuse, but irrational attachment, addiction to the roller coaster of emotions, highs and lows and highs and lows in this relationship. And you think about any other addiction, that feeling of empowerment is only fleeting because you think that you're in control. But as with any other addiction, if you've experienced, let's look at a cigarette smoker, okay? I think we all know cigarette smokers, or we've been there ourselves, but you've tried to give up, or you have given up, let's say for, 6 months, and then you go to a party one night and you smell that very familiar scent, or smell the cigarette smoke, or someone just offers you one and you think, yeah, I'm all over this. 6 months, I can handle this. And you think, yep, I'll just have one because I can control it instead of it controlling me, as has been the case in the past. Well, any cigarette smoker or ex-cigarette smoker will tell you that it's just a matter of time. Why? Because that one cigarette will enter your system and your brain will remember the dopamine hit that it used to get when the withdrawal symptoms from being in between cigarettes, or when you are having a craving. Your brain will remember the dopamine rush that you got when you picked up the cigarettes, the withdrawal, the craving ended, and that's where your brain is going to go eventually. And it's just a matter of time before you're smoking a couple a week, and then you think that you can handle that. Then before you know it, you're back on a pack a day. So I just wanted to give you an example that may resonate with you, because it is just so important. If you can possibly do it, and many people can't, but if you can possibly go complete and utter no contact, then that is what you must do for healing, for your recovery. But you need to know what no contact is when you're dealing with a toxic narcissist who, like any drug dealer, does not want a paying client to get clean. They do not want you to stop thinking about them. And they also want to be able to come back anytime they feel like it and tap into a trusty old source of narcissistic supply whom they've done all the hard yards with. They don't have to love bomb you again. They just have to press on a couple of buttons or press on those conditioned responses or reactivate them, and they consider you to be putty in their hands. In other words, not only will they draw you out of no contact, they will put you right back in that toxic washing machine cycle of narcissistic abuse, where it's just a matter of time till they spit you back out again, and the cycle will just continue to go round and round and round, where you will always be the one who ends up a crumpled heap, and the narcissist ends up to the brim with the narcissistic supply they have siphoned from you, their victim. So if you can maintain no contact, then that is what you do. And no contact is essentially thinking about the narcissist being someone who's passed away in your life. You don't have the ability to contact them in a physical sense, but it's also got to mean that you're not looking at reminders of that person. Get rid of any type of photos, gifts they may have given you, anything that you have in your home that puts the narcissist back inside your head. You would not expect a heroin addict to keep syringes or any type of drug paraphernalia lying around, and that's how you have to view going no contact with your abuser if you can do it. So now let's look at what grey rock is. So for those of you who haven't heard of this term, grey rock is a method, it's a strategy that we use to protect ourselves from the narcissists and their ability to manipulate you and abuse you more by making yourself just so completely boring to them. They just cannot get the reactions out of you that they used to. And you are just so darn boring, they have to go somewhere else for their supply. Basically, you want to act like a rock does. You want to be just seen, not heard, and basically, I call it a robot face if you have to see them. Not even an eyebrow raise, because that implies a reaction. You want to give them absolutely nothing to work with so that they stop trying to get those reactions from you and you stop feeling like you can't control your reactions, such as justifying yourself, defending yourself, explaining yourself when they are gaslighting you and just distorting your reality or just flat out baiting you and lying to you. So let's look at the type of relationships where grey rock would be applicable. In other words, you have to see them at some stage and you want to minimize those interactions, but when those interactions occur, you want to stay sane. You want to deprive the narcissist of that high they get in knowing they were able to manipulate you into reacting and, of course, hurting you. So let's look at the times when grey rock would be applicable. Sometimes we call it minimal contact. Now, those relationships would obviously be when you share a child with the narcissist or you work with them. You have to see them in some capacity every day, or at least 5 days a week for many of you, because they're your boss or they're a manipulative colleague, or maybe it's a family member who you know you will be seeing at certain family events such as weddings or even Christmas when the family gets together. But before we look at strategies to go grey rock, I just want to reiterate that it can be really draining. So the number one goal is to limit your interactions in every capacity with the narcissist as much as you possibly can. If you can avoid them at work, for instance, if you can work on different days or different shifts, that's not a sign of weakness. That's its logic. You're thinking about your healing and your survival in a job that you need. But limiting those interactions wherever possible has got to be your number one goal. Now, I think the people who really get scared of going grey rock when I mention it are the victims who share children with their abuser. They can't fathom a life where their abuser is not intimidating them and not ruining their day at the drop of a hat. And they believe that they're implementing grey rock when they're actually not. So let's look at some of the instances, if this is you and you share a child with the narcissist, where you think you're doing all the right things and there is actually more that you can do, because you don't have to have 24/7 open communication lines with your abuser, and that's who this person is, just because you share a child together. So, okay, limiting interactions is imperative. We've got that. But this is your child, and you have to do what's best for them. And you made this choice. You chose to have a child with this person, And you have to just suck it up because this is your child's parent, and you have to have transparency, and you have to do everything in your power to co-parent with the other parent of your child. Now, these are normal thoughts from a loving parent, which you are, but they're also not practical or rational, really, when you're dealing with a narcissist. And here's why. Your abuser, the narcissist you share children with, does not care, sadly, about the children. The children are a connection to you. They are a way to abuse you further, to control you, because they know how much the children mean to you, and therefore they are a tool. They are a weapon to punish you forevermore. So you know this on a logical level, but what are you supposed to do? The family court finds out that you're not picking up the phone every second they try and contact you, then you might be in trouble. If you don't answer them the second they send you a text and it's about the kids, then they will use that against you. But guys, they are going to smear you and do whatever they can to destroy your credibility, not only with the family court or your own children. They're doing that anyway. So implementing grey rock in the way that I'm going to be talking about is about your self-care and, of course, your healing. So it's so normal. Once again, normal given the context of your abuse, but irrational given that you know on a logical level they're only contacting you to intimidate you, to ruin your day, to frustrate you, and to get your reactions from you. So the narcissist gets very cunning, or they are very cunning, and not in a good way. So they will have their rants and they will call you every name under the sun, and then they sense that you're backing off. In other words, you're attempting to go grey rock. You're not taking the bait anymore, and they are on to you. So what do? For a while, they cut out the rants. They're not quite so abusive. They don't pick on your mothering or your fathering, and they just talk about the kids. Now, this can be kind of a gotcha moment because they know how important the children are to you, and you feel like you have to answer them, you have to respond, you have to be available to them because they're talking about the children. Perhaps you've got your hopes up because they appear to want to co-parent with you instead of counter-parenting everything that you do. So while the first few messages may be quite appropriate and even important to do with the children and their lives and their needs, it soon gets to a point, as many of you will know, where they are just contacting you to tell you that little Johnny had a terrible report card and it's all your fault, or that they left something at your house that belonged to your child and they need to come around and get it, even though you've asked them never to come to your property. All of these things where they will just be calling you or messaging you to ruin your day and to get you to react. And it will all be done under the guise of co-parenting. It may be that the narcissist manipulates themselves into that friendship role that seems to go hand in hand with the fact that you're now co-parenting, in that they will just ring you up or message you any time of the day just for a chit chat. And they're the last person that you want to hear from. Or on the flip side of that, you get your hopes up because you think you will be able to have a positive relationship with this person, which can only help your healing and, of course, be beneficial to your children. But you soon learn that this is just a toxic, manipulative game by the narcissist, because whilst they've hooked you back in again to the interactions based on the fact that you share children together and under the guise of co-parenting, they will flip on a dime to abuse you one day and gaslight you, confuse you, make you feel terrible again the way they used to about your role, mother or father. They will chop and change, and it will just be so debilitating, so traumatic for you, because you think that they're doing the right thing one day and you're coming from a place of love, and the next day they're just back to their old self, their baseline behavior, and that's who they are. And this is why they engage in this strategy, because the times they're manipulating you by pretending to want to co-parent with you, they are just to deflect from their main goal, which is to abuse you and make sure that you are thinking about them all the time. And of course, that you never heal. So, grey rock, when you share children with a narcissist. Now, if you are pre-family court, you must talk to your lawyer, because as we know, the family court does not understand personality disorders, and often they view the victim as the villain, because the true abuser engages in what we call DAVO in the court: deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. And they manipulatively use the residual effects of their abusive behavior, which is potentially your anxiety, your depression, etc. They use that against you to make you look like the person with all the flaws, the mental health issues, etc. So if you're pre-family court, then you need absolutely to talk to your lawyer and listen to their advice. You always have to do that. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't give you legal advice. But certainly the strategy I'm going to talk about in terms of grey rock when you share children will help you so much once the family court experience is finished, and you can look at parallel parenting and implementing rock solid boundaries between you and your abuser. So my version of grey rock, when you're able, when the family court experience is over, you're through the worst part of it and you're looking to implement those boundaries, my version is blocking them on your phone. Why should they have 24 hours a day access to you? Because you share children. Well, once again, if you were dealing with a normal person, that would be expected, but you're not. This person is not wired the same as you, and you have to protect yourself with your boundaries. So grey rock would be blocking them on your phone so that you know when you receive a notification, when that phone goes off, it's never going to be them. And of course, you're going to ask, well, what if there's an emergency? Certainly the narcissist is going to ask that question, not that they could care less, but simply because they don't want you taking their control away. So that is where I suggest bringing in a third party, a mother, a father, a best friend, someone they can't intimidate, and giving their number to your abuser. Sure, here's my mother's number. I've already thought of that, and she will take your messages, and I will give her messages to give to you should there be an emergency. But the narcissist is never going to like that. They are going to hate it, in fact, simply because they want that 24-hour-a-day access to you to get inside your head. But If it's only about the children, then why should it matter? But of course, it will. Now, limiting interactions, once again, you need to think about pickups and drop-offs. If you are going grey rock, minimal contact in every other sense of the word, but you're having the narcissist rock up on your doorstep, or they're coming up to the window of your car and even just leaning on it, seemingly just want to chit chat about coffee or, the weather, that's because they want to intimidate you. And you have to think about what else you can do to stop them from having that ability to intimidate you. In those situations, think of, once again, third parties. Can I get a best friend to pick them up and drop them off? Can I use a supervision clinic, perhaps? What do I do school holidays if I am using school or daycare centers as those pick up and drop off places? You think of everything. Are these situations or strategies ideal? Absolutely not, but this is not your fault. And when you are being triggered every time you see your abuser or hear their voice even at a pickup or drop off, then that is going to take away from your ability to be 100% emotionally available to your children. This is not a normal relationship breakup. You are escaping your abuser. So what might work in a relationship breakdown where there's two non-disordered people, those strategies are off the table. They do not work. So it all comes down to boundaries, guys, and it is not going to feel good when you first begin to implement boundaries with a narcissistic parent in particular, because children become dependent on that toxic cycle. Children become trauma bonded to their parent, and the roller coaster of emotions and that chemical cocktail through fear, obligation, and guilt. But it's going to take boundaries which are going to stop that toxic parent from able to often covertly, passive, aggressively abuse you. Boundaries may look like limiting contact. You may feel absolutely terrible if you don't ring that narcissistic parent every night, or at least every second night. The guilt becomes overwhelming because of the punishment that you have suffered from this parent over the course of a lifetime. So it's just easier to get that phone call out the way, even though every time you come off that phone call, you feel so bad about yourself. So limiting those phone calls, those interactions, and expecting exactly what the narcissist is going to say, predicting it, the silent treatment, because you're not calling them as much as you used to, or when you do call them, you're not giving them the emotions on cue that they're used to. In other words, they're losing control of you. Or maybe it's that you're halving the time you spend on the phone with them. Or maybe it's that you are going to cut down the visits that are just exhausting for you with that toxic parent. Remembering Grey Rock and the boundaries that you implement when you're using Grey Rock, that's about you and your self-care and your values and your beliefs and healing. It's about you and being assertive and your self-care, feeling good about yourself. It is never about the other person, but the toxic narcissistic parent or any narcissistic family member is going to make you feel bad. They're going to tell you that you're being nasty, that you're doing whatever it is that you're doing to punish them. So you have to expect that type of behavior from the narcissistic family member. Predict it and prepare to process the normal but irrational guilt that you have and implement those boundaries anyway. Deal with those feelings as they come, and eventually your thoughts and your feelings will align with the behavior, which is those boundaries, so that your parent or toxic family member does not have the capacity to hurt you anymore, to get those reactions from you that were so debilitating before you implemented those boundaries. Now, I really need to reiterate also, guys, that you are allowed to go no contact with a toxic, narcissistic parent. No one has the right to abuse you, and no one deserves a place in your life simply because they birthed you if they are abusing you. Remembering, we're looking at consistent patterns of this toxic behavior over space and time. They're not isolated incidents. So you are perfectly able to go no contact if that is what you want to do, and don't listen to the people who have not walked in your shoes and try and make you feel bad for, in their eyes, neglecting the person who gave birth to you. Don't listen to those people and don't feel the need to explain yourself. If no contact is the only option for you, if it's your choice, that is what you want to do, then there is nothing to say that you can't do that. Going no contact with a toxic parent, once again, is about you and healing and your boundaries. It's the decision. If you make it, it's your decision. And it's also something that comes with a lot of thought going into it, and a lot of grief, and so many different emotions that have you wondering whether you're doing the right thing. But I guess I just want to give you permission to trust yourself. You don't need my permission. You don't need anyone's permission. But I really want to make it clear that if someone is abusing you, you are allowed to remove that person from your life, no matter who they are. So just to wrap it up, guys, no contact is the only option if you do not have to see this person and you don't want to see them. Family events, etc. That's a choice you've made. You don't share children, you don't work with them, and there is absolutely no reason that you should see them. Then the only choice is no contact. Because I can tell you that there are so many people, so many victims and survivors out there who wish they could go no contact, but they just can't. That's not to say that if you can't at the moment, because that very powerful trauma bond keeps you from doing so, that's not to say that you should feel bad about yourself. That would be victim blaming. If you can go complete and utter no contact and you just cannot stay away from your abuser, or you can't leave them, that just means that you need so much support and understanding to be able to do that. I realize that's not always possible. So that's when it becomes even more important to look at how their manipulative ways that you know are based on lies and garbage and just them baiting you because they are cruel. This is about them and who they are as a person. But you need to look at how they still get to you if you just can't leave that job and adjust your reactions accordingly. And that brings us to the end of yet another Fake Love and Flying Monkeys episode. No contact, Grey Rock. You have to work out what's best for you guys, but it's really important to know exactly what Grey Rock is and of course what no contact is, and to see if you're actually doing it in a way that is the most positive for you and for your children. Now, if you would like to talk about your strategies, your ability to go Grey Rock, no contact with the narcissist in your life, or if you'd like to talk about anything else to do with escaping your abuser or healing from the narcissistic abuse, then please just see my website link in the description. And if you'd like to have that one-on-one counseling Zoom session with me, I would love to be able to support you. You'll find lots more information as well in my best-selling book, Fake Love, Understanding and Healing from Narcissistic Abuse, available worldwide and also available in Audible and Kindle. Now, if you would like to support this channel, please guys, the best thing you can do is to leave a rating, a review, and to share it. Share. Sharing is caring. Just to get it out there, put it in the algorithm. And of course, you can buy me a cup of coffee. I love coffee, and you can find the link to do that in the description as well. On that note, guys, it's bye from me for now. Until tomorrow's episode, remember, you are worthy of love, and you are worthy of so much more than a lifetime of fake love and flying monkeys.